Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So, in behalf of our AACE President, uh, Gassan Aldusari, so welcome you all to our technical webinar. So, I would like to request our professionals and the top management to sponsor their professional employees to join our forthcoming AACE certification courses, which will be held on February and March 2024. So today, technical webinar will be focused on dealing with financially distressed project and financial hardship, contractor financial hardship, and the speaker is Mr. Yaya Khatib. So Mr. Yaya is an engineer and hold multiple certificates such as FCI, ARB, MREX, CCP, CEP, PSP, and he is an active vice president for Central Region in our AAC Arabian Gulf boards and working as a commercial contract senior manager in Royal Commission for Al-Ula. He has 17 years of experience in contract, commercial, and dispute resolution in the development and construction field. He has actively involved in all stages of development of projects, starting from feasibility study through different stages of the design and finally the construction, whereby I work as a contractor, as a consultant, and as a client with portfolio worth of $10 billion of dollars. So once again, thank you for joining us, and I hope this webinar would be a beneficial for your professional excellence. So we would like to welcome Mr. Yaya Khatib. So it's your floor. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Larry, and thank you all the attendees. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will speak today about how to deal with contractor facing financial hardship, which will cause the project to be distressed. We will go quickly through the author biography. I think we can skip it for now because Larry already did the introduction. So we will see what are the factors that will affect the decision when we have a contractor which is having financial hardship and we are acting as a client. So what are the factors that we need to consider before we decide whether we are going to support this contractor to complete the project or we are going to replace the contractor? We will see the options available to the client, and then we will see considerations when we want to support the contractor, considerations when we want to do a replacement, to do an amicable replacement for the contractor, and finally, the worst scenario when we need to do an enforced replacement to the contractor. So I'm Yahya Al-Khatib, mechanical engineer, a fellow of Chartered Institute of Arbitrator, and member of Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. And I have a few certificates with AACE regarding cost estimating, planning, and scheduling. So what are the factors that we need to consider when we come across a financially suffering contractor? I just want to start by bringing your attention that it's really not uncommon for construction companies to face financial hardships, actually for many reasons that are inherent with the nature of the industry. So contractor will have to pay at a certain point of time, big amount of cash out to buy the equipment. And on the other hand, he is going to receive big amount of cash in at a specific time when he reaches milestone or he submits invoices against big progress. So the cash flow itself is not steady with the contractor. So that would be a reason for many of the contractors to have an issue in financial cash flow. But the issue is not really a severe one, and that could be something which contractors can live with. But on the other hand, the issue could be severe and could lead the contractor to be facing an issue for a long time, for months or years, and sometimes to be out of the market. And we can recall actually recently how COVID pandemic impacted many companies, particularly the construction companies. And also earlier in 2016, when there was a severe drop in the construction market, some contractors faced severe shortage in the cash, and some actually collapsed, and some are now out of the market, some of the big names. So
Okay.
what we are seeing here is actually something that happens in the market, and we will see how to deal with this if we are clients, and if we are dealing with this from contractual and financial aspect. Okay, so what can we do when we are having a financially suffering contractor? We have actually one of two options, whether to support the contractor financially just to complete our project for the benefit of our project, or the other option is to terminate the contractor and replace the contractor with another contractor. And we're going to see what are the factors that will help us to decide which of these options are we going to select. So these are the factors that we need to consider. First, we have to see the contractor history and previous performance. Is this a contractor who's just working for us for the first time, or whether he is a contractor which has a proven history? He did multiple projects with us, and we know that he has a good performance and he's performing the projects. So if he was a contractor with a good performance, that would be one of the factors which will lead us to support the contractor rather than replacing him. If the contractor is involved in a portion of the design, or if he's offering a special knowledge, so obviously it would be more difficult for us to replace him without impacting our project. So that would be a factor to support the contractor. Also, if the contractor is overpaid, so if we replace him, it would take from us some administrative effort to reclaim our overpayment, even though we can do this actually contractually, but that would be something which will impact our project and impact our cash flow. So if he's overpaid, that would be one of the factors that would not encourage us to replace the contractor. Does the contractor have or can he offer a parent company guarantee? If that's the case, so we can feel comfortable to maintain the contractor, because if he was not able to perform, his parent company can step in and perform the contract. Just as a quick note regarding the parent company guarantee, it's some sort of guarantee when our contractor is actually a part or a subsidiary of a mother company, maybe a bigger contractor with proven history and better and good financial situation. So based on this guarantee, the parent company will give us a guarantee that in case its subsidiary failed to perform the project, then the parent company will step in and perform the project with the same cost and the same terms and conditions of the contract. So that would be something which will give us a peace of mind as clients. Now, if the contractor is at early stage of the project, so definitely his involvement is less and it's easier for us to replace him. So that would be a factor which lead us to replacing the contractor. If the financial issue is a severe one and not just a temporary cash flow issue, which we have discussed earlier, so that would be a factor to replace the contractor, because it would be more difficult to address the severe cash flow issue. Now, in principle, we as clients, we don't have the visibility for the contractor to go and check what is really behind his cash flow issue. But if the contractor was cooperative and he revealed his financial statements and what's payments he's expecting, that would help us actually to help him when we feel comfortable that's only a temporary cash flow issue. But if the contractor was not able to cooperate, so that would be, we should assume that he's facing a severe financial issue, and that would be a factor to replace the contractor. Whether or not it's easy to find a suitable replacement in the market. So if we can find in an easy way a suitable replacement, that would be a factor to replace the contractor. And the last factor is whether the client himself can step in and take over. Mainly if the client himself is a contractor and we are speaking about his subcontractor facing a financial issue, then it would be much easier for a contractor to do the work which was subcontracted using the main contractor material, equipment, labor. So that would be a factor which makes it easy for a contractor to step in and replace his financially suffering subcontractor. So mainly these are the factors that we have to consider before we decide whether we are going to support or replace our contractor. But just keep in mind that whatever the decision is, it will have financial consequences on you as a client, because if you are supporting him, then you have to pay out of your cash flow. And if you are replacing him, then that would be probably more difficult issue to handle based on the additional cost you need to pay for the new contractor and solving the contractual potential dispute with the old contractor and dealing with liability. So in both cases, we will have some consequences. So that's why we need to involve the executive management in this decision, whatever the decision was. So based on these factors, we will decide whether to replace or to maintain the contractor. So these are the options to support the contractor by providing additional financial support beyond what was mandated on us by the contract, just to complete our project, or replace the contractor, and the replacement can be amicable or can be an enforced replacement. And in all cases, we said that all of these options actually are not favorable for us as clients. We just hope that everything will go as per contract without financial support. But if we have to do something, so our first option is to go for financial support if that appear to be a possible option. If not, we have to go to amicable replacement, and if not, we have to go to enforced replacement. So over the rest of this presentation, we will see just quickly in a nutshell what to do in this case, what to do in this case, and what to do in this case contractually and commercially. So starting with the first option, if we decided to support the contractor, so we have also two methods to support the contractor. The first, actually there are two options. The first option, if the contractor can provide a further guarantee against the additional support that you are going to give him, like a further bank guarantee or an asset in guarantee for what we are giving him as additional financial support. If the contractor was able to do this, that would be easier for both parties and will give us as clients a peace of mind, because the contractor, we will just support the contractor financially, and we have a guarantee for what we have paid. So we don't really need to go deeper in details administering how he is spending this money, because if he did not spend it efficiently, we have our guarantee anyway. So that's not really a big concern for us. While the other option, if the contractor is in a very bad situation so that he can't provide any further guarantee, so here we have to step in further and see how he is spending these funds, and that the funds is being spent in an efficient way for the sake of our project success. So for the first case, if he can give us a guarantee, that would be helpful for small. We can provide him an on-account payment. It's technically an additional advance payment, and we deal with it exactly the same way we deal with an advance payment. We take the guarantee, we pay the contractor cash amount, and based on agreed recovery rate, we recover from actual invoices. We can also pay him against the material on site. So if the contract allows for that, the contractor, once he delivers the material, we pay him a portion of the material cost, and then we recover this payment from actual invoices when the work is executed. But here we need to monitor the material ownership. Actually, in all cases of paying material on site, we have to take some certificate from the contractor that these material are actually owned now by the client, but they are still under the responsibility of the contractor. And we need this for a reason that if the contractor went into insolvency, we need to avoid claims for ownership of material from his vendors. So we need to avoid a situation in which we have the material inside or probably installed, and somebody else who is not our contractor is claiming the ownership of the material. So that really complicates our project. So what we do in normal cases, even if the contractor is not financially facing difficulties, we ask for a certificate of ownership to avoid this. And when the contractor is really facing financial hardship, this certificate would be even more important. So if you are going to pay material at site, we have to check the contractual provision allowing for that, and we have to have a certificate of ownership of this material. Now, all of this, if the contractor can provide a guarantee against what you are paying him. If the contractor cannot provide the guarantee and we still want to support him, so here we need to step in one further step to make sure that whatever material, whatever financing, additional financing we are giving to the contractor are spent in the proper place. They are spent on our project to pay the subcontractors, to pay plant and material, and to pay the direct labor, because these are what are going to complete our project. So we will see now a few scenarios of how can this be done technically without disturbing the project, or the minimum disturbance to the project, and with maximum benefit of financial support to the contractor. So we would think about this theoretical scenario that, okay, we pay the material to the contractor, and then the contractor is going to pay his subcontractors, equipment, labor for our project, and then our project will be completed in this way. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the scenario in most of the cases, because the contractor is already under pressure, not only for our project, for other projects. So once we release the funds, we don't really control how the contractor is spending this money. So we may end up with only few of these funds are spent to our project and others are spent to other projects to release the contractor from his pressure under other projects. So that's not really a reliable scenario. Another scenario which we may think of is to pay directly the subcontractors, equipment, and labor. And obviously, this scenario is not really for different reasons. In the first place, that we don't have a contractual relation with any of these. We don't have contractual relation for the labor to pay them, for the equipment of whoever is the owner of the equipment, and for the actual relationship. But also, if we are doing this, let's say we just built our contractual relationship with them, we are really we are relieving the contractor from his obligations. So he will tell us, okay, you paid our subcontractors and they did some work, so we're not really responsible about the quality of their work. We're not liable for what they did, and we're not liable for the quality of workmanship of our labor. So that's not really a working scenario. But what can be liable, though, is this scenario of opening an escrow bank account specifically dedicated for spending the additional funds for this project. So we make some sort of an agreement with the bank saying that we are going to fund to provide in this account with specific funds, but you have to make sure that these funds are only spent for this project. And the contractor, whenever he wants to pay any of these items, subcontractor, equipment, labor, he's not going actually to take the money and pay them. He was just instructing the bank to release the money for all of these items, and the bank can verify that these items, this money are spent in the correct place. So definitely there should be some sort of agreement with the bank and some level of interference from the client. It could be just giving the bank the discretion of how he's deciding whether the payment is proper or not. Or on the other side, the client can request the bank to ask him to seek his approval for each and every payment the contractor is releasing. So it depends on the client and the way he wants to administer this. So that would be a workable scenario. It needs an agreement with the contractor and an agreement with the bank. And definitely it requires more administrative effort from the client compared to the original situation, whereby he does not even need to pay anything based on the contractual obligation. But he's paying this just to support his own contract. So now, if we are going with amicable replacement, what we have seen was if we are going to support the contractor, now let's assume when we did the analysis, we find that there is no benefit of supporting the contractor, and we decided to replace him with an amicable replacement, and we agreed with the contractor on that. So what should we do is to ensure that we have proper closeout of the contract. We make a mutual thorough site survey, and that's really important to draw the borderline between what the contractor, the existing contractor did and what the new contractor is going to do. So if we agree on this, that would be way better for both parties in paying the contractor and in understanding our situation so that we can tender the rest of the work to the new contractor. Whatever we can finalize of the as-built executed work would be for the benefit of both parties. If we can do functional tests for completed portion, if we can do performance test and partial commissioning, if that's applicable. So this will be always in the benefit of both parties. The contractor can be paid a bigger amount, and the client will make sure that this part is now completed and he has to focus in his tendering on the rest of the project. It would be beneficial to keep a small portion of the work with the contractor himself. Maybe he's suffering financially, but he can handle this small portion. So that would maintain the relationship with the contractor, but also can keep him available if we have any question regarding the history and any support regarding the work that was previously done by the contractor. And we have to agree on valuation of partially completed scope. So probably the contract might be a lump sum contract, and we don't have a price for each and every item that was delivered at the time we closed the contract. So we have to agree on valuation for partially completed scope. So that would be the resolution for when we have amicable settlement, but make sure that we try to expedite this as much as possible before the contractor decays. If the contractor is getting a financial hardship, and this financial hardship might get severe, so even the contractor himself will not be able to control his own personnel, his own history, his own systems. Maybe you might face an angry engineer who's deleting the history or whatever, and all of this actually happens in the project. So the sooner this can be resolved, it will be better for the client. Now, the last thing we need to think of is to do the enforced replacement. So for enforced replacement, what would help us in this decision, and what is complicating this decision? So if we have relevant contract clauses, this will help us in the enforced replacement of the contractor. So some of the contracts says that if the contractor was not able to perform and we sent him a notice and he did not perform, then the contract says that we may replace him, we may terminate the contract, we may ask another contractor to step in and back charge this to the main contractor or to the original contractor. So such clauses are helpful for this case. If there are contractual escalation clauses, we have to follow them. Like mainly in all the contracts, we have to give a notice to the contractor before we replace him. So that could be notice or notices, and we cannot just all of the sudden tell the contractor that you are terminated today and you cannot enter the site and do your work. And we can get the benefit of the bonds or bank guarantees, whether it's an advance payment bond or performance bond. So we can implement our contractual rights to liquidate these bonds and collect the money and use this money to pay whoever is the new contractor. Now, what complicates this decision is that really a big mess, which is often underestimated. So it might be easy to say, I'll replace the contractor, but you have to think about the liabilities between the old scope and the contractors and the new scope. I mean, the old contractor and the new contractor, the systems that are not completed, the cost, which would be for sure higher when you are asking a new contractor to step in to a site which has already problems inside compared to a new site, and the issue of liabilities between the old and the new contractor. So that's really a big mess, which needs to be our final option to do. And definitely it will increase the project cost and time, because definitely you have to stop for a while to do all of these administrative issues. And the new contractor is very likely to ask for a higher price just to count for these uncertainties and risks that are not available in a new clean site. And we have to deal most probably with the contractual and legal complications when we terminate the contractor. He's likely to claim for I mean, whatever his position is, but it's very likely that we'll have a contractual and legal complications after the termination, unless it was amicable. So this is our last slide, which shows the phases which we have to do if we are having an enforced replacement. First, to build the dispute case. So as we said, we have to issue letters to the contractor, refer to the contractual clauses, give him a reasonable time to do this, and we actually indeed have to be reasonable with anything we are requesting the contractor. So if there was no proper remedy, we can then implement the relevant contract clauses of termination or replacement or whatever. We have to keep an eye on the contract dispute resolution clause in the contract. So most likely that the contractor himself will go to the will initiate a dispute, because we as clients we have the right, contractual right, to do in most of the cases. I mean, as per the contract clauses, but in most of the cases we have the contractual right to terminate or replace a contractor, and then the contractor can go to the dispute resolution if he finds that this is not was not fair or that was a dispute. But we have to keep an eye if there is something we have to do before terminating the contract, like adjudication or negotiation or whatever, if that was mandated by the contract. And as soon as we get aware or we think that we are going to liquidate or to terminate the contract, we have to inform the bank that we are likely to liquidate the guarantees as soon as we know, and then later we ask him to liquidate it. Even though liquidation of the guarantee is something really very critical, and there seems to be like an unwritten understanding, gentleman agreement between the clients and the contractors that the guarantees are not going to be liquidated unless that's the last solution, because liquidation of the guarantees will be very harmful to any contractor. But that's a contractual right, and the client has the right to do it if he has to do so. So that's first the dispute case, then the transition between the new contractor, between the old and the new contractor. So we have to document as clients that a proof of cost mitigation. So whatever cost we are planning or we are intending to recover or claim again from the old contractor, we have to maintain a proof of cost mitigation, because we cannot just, even if the contract says that, for example, we can, if the contractor was delayed in buying the equipment, we can buy the equipment and back charge this to the contractor. We cannot go simply and buy the equipment with a high price and back charge this to the contractor. Whatever cost we have to claim should be a mitigated cost and should be a reasonable cost. So, for example, we have to get different quotations or make a tender and receive the lowest bid, and we have to document this. Then we claim our money from the contractor that's being terminated. We have to ask our new contractors, which is actually new bidders that are going to take over, to do a survey on the site to quantify the remaining scope. And actually, we don't have to do this when the replacement is amicable, but since it's enforced replacement, it's very likely that the old contractor will not cooperate with this. So we have to ask a new contractor to come and step in, and before he gives us the price, he needs to tell us how much is the quantity of the remaining scope. So this particular part, quantifying the scope, can be done actually on cost plus basis. And the best thing to do is to have it through two-stage tendering, whereby we ask the new contractor to come to the site, do the first stage on cost plus basis. And the first stage will be just to bring his engineers and surveyors to the site, to bring his site officers to assess the value of the remaining work. So that's stage one. And then stage two is actually to price the remaining work. And this is normally done on lump sum or remeasurable basis. So two-stage tendering would be a perfect solution for this scenario. And probably we may elaborate further on this if asked at the end of the session. And we have to give the old contractor a reasonable time to hand over procured plant material and drawings. So the dispute may go to an extreme case of asking the contractor, denying the contractor from getting access to the site. But we still have to give him a reasonable time. If he has any material under his possession or equipment, we cannot just go and buy them without giving him the chance to hand over this material to us. So we give him reasonable time. Whatever material was handed over to us from within a reasonable time, we can pay this material or consider it in the final settlement. If not, then we can buy this material and then back charge them to the contractor. And given that these material prices are reasonable and the cost is mitigated. And finally, the last stage is when the new contractor starts to do the work. So definitely it will be based on a new tender package from the previous transition phase. It might go to the same contractor who did the survey, and that would be a better case. Or we may go to a new tender for open bid based on the scope that was identified at this stage. And finally, the contract price, as we said, would be higher compared to the normal price, given that the new contractor needs to price for the risk related to complications and additional liabilities. So that's my last slide, and I'd just like to remind you to register. As my colleague said, they will paste the link to register for the attendance certificate. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so informative this training regarding this contractor financial hardship. So I think we have some few questions on the chat box. So let me check it again. Okay, so there is one question here from Said. How much duration is required to be given to the contractor for termination of the contract as per FIDIC?
Yeah, frankly, I don't recall the standard FIDIC template, but that would be one of the terms that are normally amended. So normally they give him different notices. The first notice of non-performance, I think 14 days. I'm not sure about the dates, but that would be not really be a long duration, probably a couple of weeks.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much. So I think that's the only question I can see in the chat box. So anybody from the group, if you wanted to ask some few two more questions before we will close and give the certificate of recognition to our speaker, so you may do so. You can unmute yourself and ask questions. Okay. So I think we have none. So before we end, I would like to present this certificate of appreciation to our technical speaker. In behalf of AACE Arabian Gulf Section, Board is honored to present this memento to Yaya Khatib, BES Engineering, FC ARB, MRIX, CCP, CEP, and PSP. And he is also a Vice President for Central Region of Arabian Gulf Section. And for being a speaker of AACE Virtual Technical Webinar presentation entitled Dealing with Financially Distressed Projects. So, Contractor Financial Hardship, held on Wednesday, December 20, 7 to 8 p.m. Riyadh time at the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Signed by AACE Arabian Gulf Section President Ghassan Al Dusari. So thank you very much, Yaya, and to all our participants and guests. Thank you very much, and hope to see you soon in our future technical webinar presentation.
Excuse me.
If you have some few more questions, I think we can. Yaya is still willing to answer. So anybody from the group? Nobody?
Excuse me, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes.
This is Abdullah Hekpinar. I have already put my question on the chat box to Engineer Yahya.
Okay.
Can you see it, please?
Uh, can you ask it directly because I will
Yes,
still
actually, I'm wondering, based on the Saudi law, is it possible to issue an escrow bank account easily?
Yes, yes, it's possible and it's doable. I mean, unless there is something else in the transaction, but the issuance of escrow account is legal and legitimate and possible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your questions.
Hi, Mr. Yahya.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry, my name is Ragesh. I have one question.
Hi.
It's the liquidation of the bond, performance bond or advance payment bond. How this will be dealt in KSA market?
Frankly, in my 15 plus years of experience, I work as a contractor and as a client. I have never encountered really any client who has liquidated the bond of the contractor. But technically, they will just receive the money from the bank for the full amount of the bond, and pay the new contractor whatever amount is due from the old contractor, and return the rest to the bank or to the old contractor, if any, if there was any excess.
Okay, fine, thank you. Or one more question adding to this question, this scenario is if the employer loss is more than the liquidation, is there any remedy?
Yeah. The remedy will be only through a claim. I mean, we just take the remedy in the cash directly, and then we have to claim the rest of the amount from the contractor. Reverse claim, actually, claim by the consultant, sorry, by the employer on the contractor.
So that will be through a litigation process,
So,
or there's only possibility, correct?
yeah, yes, right. That will